Hi guys, and welcome back to another video. So your local neighborhood Genshin idiot here decided that I would actually summon for the Wanderer, and I did get him. But because I did get him, and it was kind of like at early pity, and I kind of used up all my primo gems, I am endangered of getting Haitham, which I've been saying like initially that I was gonna, patiently save for his banner, and now that we received kind of like drip marketing for him and beloved YaoYao, I feel like I'm endangered for probably not gonna be getting him. I feel like my Genshin luck is gonna run out because I was aiming for Ito's weapon. I got Ito's weapon, which was nice. And then for the Wanderer, he did come early and I won the 50-50, which was nice, but also, yeah, I like literally have 0 primo gems at the time of summoning for the Wanderer, so yeah, there's that. As for the video for today, I am drawing beloved YaoYao. So if you don't know who YaoYao is, she's one of the newest Genshin characters that have been released via their drip marketing tactic from Genshin, and a lot of us Genshin players who been playing Genshin for a little while remember the spoilers from, I don't remember which update it was, where a person dropped all these leaked models at the very beginning. So we saw like Kokomi's initial design. There was like Kazuha, Hu Tao, Shenhe, who else was there? It's kind of like that batch of characters though, and there was YaoYao in that batch, and she's the last one of all of those ones that we've seen that is now finally released. So I'm super happy that she's finally released. I've done a painting of her with watercolors like way back then as well. Yeah, and we've been patiently waiting for her, and she's finally gonna be here in probably the next update, like the bigger patch update, which I'm super excited for. She is a Dunjo character. She is also of the smaller female body type, and yeah, she's super cute, super cute. I can't wait for her. I've been waiting and wanting her for so long. And she's definitely living up to my expectations. She's just absolutely adorable. So I wanted to draw her today. So yeah, that is who I am drawing right now. So for the sketch, I actually didn't include this in the first portion. I ended up deleting a first draft. I was gonna make her hug the little rabbit toy that she has, but I didn't really like the pose, so I decided to scrap it. And I think even for this one, you guys saw me, I think, scrap a pose in the beginning, and I'm gonna be making a lot of adjustments in terms of just fixing things to look a little bit more correct. I did struggle a little bit with the eyes as well, because I feel like the bigger the eyes that I draw, the more derpy it becomes, because it looks like they're not focusing on anything, right? They look like they're kind of getting a little bit bug-eyed, kind of getting, yeah, at least like in my opinion, do you ever feel like they're getting a little bug-eyed, or to get a little bit cross-eyed? So yeah, we're going to be adjusting her eyes quite a bit. I don't think I mind it too much in the sketch, but when I started to do the coloring, it kind of bothered me quite a bit. So yeah, we'll be kind of adjusting it. So in terms of sketching, like I said, the initial pose that I wanted to do was her hugging the kind of rabbit toy creature that she has, like her little companion, but I decided to switch it up and make it look like she's just in a bamboo forest and having like a basket behind, like her basket, and looks like she's just kind of posing there cutely, is the plan. So I'll talk a little bit more about the background and the coloring choice or color choices that I made, because I definitely went to reference a few photos that I just took, like have taken in Genshin for the general color scheme. It's very much green, so yeah, we'll get onto that when we do the coloring. For sketching, like I said, kept everything pretty simple. I feel like I do struggle drawing like character types of this specific body structure, if that makes sense. So usually for these characters, they have more of like a child body, right? I guess like it's like a cross between like a full chibi version of like a character and like a actual full body, because they're not quite chibi, but they have such, I don't know, for me it's like the proportions feel very weird. I feel the same way sometimes when I draw females in an anime style, because if you look at a normal person, like a realistic human, just like a normal person in real life, their neck is not like super thin. but a lot of like anime characters, or like even if you look at I think I noticed this most when I was drawing like VTuber models. So when I was, or not drawing VTuber models, drawing fan art of VTubers, if that makes sense. So when I was looking at them, some of them have such tiny little thin necks, like such tiny necks, and it doesn't make sense if you draw them at a 3/4 angle or a side view, because the neck cannot be that thin for it to make sense for the size of the head, if that makes sense, because the way how your head is shaped, the back of your skull is going to reach the back of your neck, and your chin jaw area goes to the other side of your neck, kind of thing. So it's like a certain thickness. No one's neck like is super thin, at least not to my knowledge of what I've seen in real life. So sometimes when I draw like kids or chibis, or just like the way they stylize a lot of necks in like animes for female characters, they're a lot thinner. So I always feel weird drawing 3/4 angles where it doesn't make sense of how the neck connects to the back of the head. So yeah, it always makes them feel like they're a little bit bobbleheadish. I know like for chibis, I often don't mind making the neck super skinny because of the stylization, just feels a little bit better. But when you get into the weird area of drawing like children or just females, it kind of gets into that weird bobblehead-ish area. Okay, so now that we finished with the sketch, I think at this point I've duplicated the sketch and I've changed the sketch to multiply as well, and then I hid the second sketch so we can save that just in case if I botch this up completely. And working on the background, so I had indication of like little bamboo stalks, I don't know what you call these, and then I had the leaves in. So I accidentally cut out the portion, or I didn't film it, I think, where I was browsing on my phone. So on my phone I taken some screenshots in Liyue, and I might have to see which place it is. It's basically the waypoint. When you teleport, usually a boar will come and ram you immediately and you take damage upon arriving at that waypoint. It's like very close to the Qingsi village, is it that one? Very close to there. It's like, but it's like on the bottom portion rather than on the mountains. And that is kind of what I wanted to use as kind of just general reference in terms of atmosphere and just like location, because there's a lot of bamboo plants there, and I wanted to see whether or not I was going to include any of the structures that I could see there, because there's some structures, I think there's some signs, or I could add a little bit more of like other plants or foliage, or just adding I think there's water there as well, so I could have added those in. I think there's like fencing around there too, because there's like a mountain path going upwards once you kind of move your way through the bamboo. But I decided to keep it a little bit more simple, a little bit more atmospheric, by keeping it a little bit brighter in the very back and kind of making it kind of warmer, so it's like really sunny from that portion, and then a little bit darker and a little bit more in focus as we move to the right hand, the bottom corner. And I think that's about it in terms of the background, at least for now. I'm gonna add a little bit later, and I'm gonna add some bamboo leaves to the foreground. So now that we finished the background for the most part, I'm gonna do a few touch-ups and stuff a little bit later, but I decided to change the line work for YaoYao to be a little bit more softer. So I changed the saturation to be a little bit higher, and I changed the value to be a little bit brighter as well, and then I kind of kept the hue around the same, or I made it a little bit more like a reddish brown. And then we can make a new layer, put that underneath the sketch, and start to color everything of YaoYao. But I'm starting off with the skin, so I have a basic skin tone just laid out fairly light, and then we're going to slowly build up some value and put some warmth into her face. Now another thing, it might have looked like a very drastic change, but it's just because my iPad was starting to get brighter and brighter, and as well as the lighter colors on my iPad doesn't really get picked up well by my webcam, so I have to kind of dim it down. So hopefully this is a little bit more accurate to what you guys should be seeing, which also helps make the white stands out compared to the skin, because otherwise the skin would have looked super what is it called, like washed out. So before we actually tackle the actual like iris area, I'm just adding a little bit of shading and stuff around her eyes. I think I added the purple and stuff as well, just in case if I wanted a little bit of a deeper shadow from where the hair is touching the skin on her face. And I added a little bit of the green from the background into the grayish shadow for like the whites of her eyes, or like the sclera. So for her eyes, I kind of struggled. Like I said in the beginning, that I'm going to be changing her eyes a little bit by little, kind of when I'm doing the rendering stage. And I think I go through like 3 different eyes, because the larger I draw the eyes, the derpier they seem, or at least like they look a little creepy sometimes. I don't know if it's because like sometimes I draw them so wide looking that they look like they're like intensely staring, which I don't think looks cute. So yeah, I wanted to change that a little bit. And then as well as the mouth. So for the mouth, I decided to change, I think I changed it twice. So right now we have this kind of like smiley mouth. I'm going to change it to a kind of like only you can see the upper teeth and a little bit of her inside of her mouth. And then I'm going to change it again to be much more of a subtle smile, I think. And just, I think it looks a little bit cuter and suits her. Maybe it's because the mouth is closer to what the reference actually looks like. Yeah. Moving on to hair, so I picked a soft brown for her hair, and then surrounding either the bangs or any of the parts of the hair that frames her face, I decided to pull some of that skin tone so we can kind of soften that area. And then because I already knew how I wanted the lighting to be kind of coming from for the most part, I decided to make the right side a little bit more into shadow. So I'm kind of making the color a little bit more dull as well as a little bit darker, and we're making a little bit cooler as we're moving to the right. And then as we're moving to the left side, I'm going to make it a lot brighter and adding a little bit more saturation if I need to, unless I'm like tackling like the highlights, which I tend to make just super bright. And I'm trying to think what else about Genshin. TCG. So I was like debating between what I wanted to do for today's video. So YaoYao's drip marketing and just like the way Hoyoverse did the announcement, for me it was like a little bit as a surprise. I forgot the Game Awards thing was happening, and usually Genshin drops something, I believe. So because of that, I was actually initially going to draw, I think, Sino and Tinari together and draw them kind of like head to head playing TCG with Ito maybe in the background or something. I think it'd be kind of fun to do. There's another thing I would like to do in the future with something Genshin related. But I think I'll save that maybe for a sketching video, and then we can do the Tinari and Sino TCG duel game thing for another video. I don't know, we'll see what happens, because I promised also that I was gonna do a start to finish video for this week, but because of some things that I need to take care of, as well as just it's been a little bit hard for me to film at night sometimes, so I haven't been able to get like a full session of me drawing, even though like more recently when I film these videos I usually break it up into 2 days just because it's a little bit easier on myself. And I think it's just like consistency wise, if I can just get 2 longer sessions of drawing rather than like me trying to film one illustration throughout the day where like the lighting keeps changing or just like more interruptions, or like the change in energy for me is a little bit different. Yeah, I think it's better for me to kind of split it up. But for sketch the finish ones, I would like to do it in one sitting. I think it's because usually when I take a break, I lose focus and I kind of skip around a lot just to try to get back into the groove of it, which might prolong the video to be way too long. Yeah, and then sometimes even from when I'm recording these kinds of videos, whenever the light changes, my iPad reacts to it. So you can see that I was trying to make the iPad screen a little bit darker so that things don't get too washed out. So after I was finished pretty much with like the upper portion of YaoYao, I decided to move on to the clothing. But because sometimes when I'm coloring brown hair, I do like trying to add a little bit of other colors. I think I ended up adding a little bit of purple, obviously yellow from the lighting, and then I attempted to add a little bit of the green into her hair, but I think I kind of forgot when I started to do the rendering to add a little bit more green so that we can kind of incorporate some of the background colors into the actual figure itself as well. Let's see, what else? Design wise, I've already like I don't know. I already talked about liking YaoYao a lot, and I really like her design. It's super cute, very like it screams Dendro to me. But I also like I just like Liyue characters' designs a lot, especially for their outfits and stuff. I just like seeing them. I think it's just maybe like the accessories and patterning and stuff. I think is just well incorporated into like more modern wear, like modern looking clothes, if that makes sense. I think it's like it's nice to see that also like in Inazuma and Sumeru as well. So yeah. What else to talk about for Genshin though? I think there's not too much to talk about. I definitely should have saved much more. I think in terms of the banners, if I'm trying to think about it, I skipped Nilu's banner. Who else was it? There's like someone right after. So I summoned for Tinari, Sino. Who else was there? There's someone else I should have just skipped and I kept summoning for whatever reason. Oh, that's another thing. So while I was summoning for Ito's weapon, I believe I ended up getting Candace, I think, as well. So I got Candace along with Ito's weapon, and luckily Ito's weapon I did not have to go through like several sessions of rolling for it because I was worried. Like the thing is, it's like for me, I liked Ito a lot, and I think I summoned him on a whim the very first time Ito was released and had his banner. And because I was summoning for, I think I was saving for Ayato, I didn't put too many primos into the weapon banner, and I decided to skip his weapon banner. I think he had one rerun already, and I skipped it for whoever it was. Might have been Tineri, but I skipped it, didn't get the weapon, and then this time I decided that maybe it's time to actually pull for his weapon, see how lucky I get. And yeah, I feel like my luck's gonna run out pretty soon, if anything. And then when I was summoning for the Wanderer, I think I did 3 pulls, and I was kind of somewhat fresh from coming from Nahida's banner. Oh, that's the last person I summoned for. So Nahida was the last one I summoned for, and I think I got Nahida and Jean together. So I think I was only 8 into the banner, and I did about 3 to 4 pulls, I think. So it's luckily Wanderer came home like quite early, but in the pulling, I also got Faruzan, and I think I got C1 Goro, finally. I literally had C0 Goro for such a long time, but yeah, and I think the other 4 stars I got were mostly like weapon related, so yeah, Faruzan, and then C1 Goro, and then the Wanderer, so yeah. Farming has been a little bit of a pain. I've been running out of getting the, what is it called? What's the, like, it's like the purple mushroom type things for Scaramouche. I definitely need a little bit more, and I need to collect more of those red fruit looking things for Candace and for Farazan. So, So let me see. Oh, I finished with the coloring and I moved to the line work or the sketch again. I decided to change up some of the colors around for some of the areas so that they appear a little bit more softer. And then I also went in with the eraser to kind of get rid of those lines that we do not need. I went ahead and merged those together, and then we're gonna fix the lighting a little bit to make it a little bit more intense. And I usually like to do a lot of rim lighting, especially with these kinds of backgrounds where it's more just like faded background, like the character's in the environment but it's not too like embedded into it. So I like doing the rim lighting from being backlit a little bit, and then we'll add a little bit of a multiply layer to intensify the shadows. And then when we're finished the entirety of the drawing, I will add an overlay layer over it so that we can have a little bit more color variation within the greens, and it's kind of where the light is coming from as well. So yeah, did a little bit of rim lighting with the add layer, and then multiply there, we're adding a little bit of a shadow. And I am going to lock this layer as well and kind of push the shadows to be a little bit cooler in some areas, because this one appeared a little bit too warm for my liking. So I'm going in kind of with a blue, and then later on a little bit more, I guess like this lighter grayish blue for the shadows, because I thought it fits a little bit better. I do think I should have chose maybe a darker color, or maybe just a muted cooler tone color, because the green just looks like more of an intense green if anything, and I don't think I kept the shadows where they were. I think I turned them into more like clothing folds or just like color variation rather than a shadow. But other than that, I merged the addition layer down to my color and sketch layer together, and then I also merged the multiply layer so that we're working on one layer for now. So yeah, I'm going in and I am now doing the rendering and cleaning up phase, as well as making some changes. So this is why I really like painting over things, or just doing more of a painterly method, so I don't have to like re-sketch, redo the line work, and then redo like the color, the base color, then shadows and everything else. I can just paint over it right away. So I changed YaoYao's mouth to become open with kind of just the upper teeth showing. And then I went to fix the eyes because that is what I wanted to tackle first, because she was looking a little bit funny. So yeah, I don't know, maybe it's just me. I was looking at it just now from the footage and it didn't look too bad, but I think it just gradually gets worse until I decide to simplify it a little bit. So I decided to add like similar shapes as the official art, but just because of how I applied it, it didn't really like look correct. So I thought it looked like it was too much for the eyes and made it look too busy. And I don't know if it's because of how I placed the pupil and just like the whites of the eyes being so open. When I added the highlights and looked at it, it looks very much like she's very wide-eyed, and like I said, it looked a little bit creepy of like an intense stare. So I decided to change it. I simplified it, so I got rid of the lines surrounding her pupils. I changed the circle at the bottom, changed the highlight a little bit, made the iris, or not the iris, I made the pupil a little bit larger, and kept the iris, like in general, pretty simple compared to the last one, so that she doesn't look too bug-eyed, I guess. So yeah, at least that kind of fixed up my first concern. The second thing I'm gonna do is probably the mouth, in terms of trying to fix it, because I'm going to cover it up again and make the mouth a little bit smaller, a little bit more dainty. And then I don't think I show this in the video. I might. You probably see it on the time lapse at the very end, but I also bring her bangs down a little bit. So when I was looking at the placement of her bangs, I think I was placing it based off how the bangs covered the eyebrows, and I have a habit of drawing eyebrows quite high up on the face when they're raised, even though like your eyebrows aren't that much higher from where your eyelids are. So I made them more exaggerated, so it made YaoYao's bangs look a little bit too high and it too much forehead, I guess, if that makes sense. But for the rest of this portion, for the most part, until we get closer to the end where I do a little bit of foreground effects and just like color adjusting, it's just pretty much me cleaning up everything, adding a little bit more structure to certain areas and getting rid of those little scraggly lines you'll see like majority in the hands or like in her body area. The bells were fun though. I don't know if it's because of the amount of Sumeru characters I've been drawing from time to time. I've been really like what is it called, rendering and coloring gold objects. I just think it's fun bringing out like those intense highlights and playing around with the colors you can put into the shadows. Like a lot of the times I add more recently I guess like greens and browns, so it kind of becomes more of a true gold color rather than sticking with like orange and browns where it's, or like orange, browns, reds and purples where it's like strictly more warm. Because I feel like that makes better shadows maybe for like yellows, but for like gold there's definitely more hints of like greens and some of those cool tones in there that makes it like a little bit brassier. And the braids, so I did not plan out her braids like entirely correct, so don't look at them too closely because they probably don't really look like braids the more you look at them, but like in general probably looks okay. Just it doesn't make sense the way how I have them crisscrossed. Actually they don't even look like they're crisscrossed. But I really like YaoYao's hairstyle. It's super cute. I think it's because it's similar to Xiangling's too. Because Xiangling also has like quite long hair. And she has it in... Is it? Yeah, it's like similar to this. I think it's like a braided bow, right? Right at the back of her head. And then for YaoYao, it's like the same thing. Hers is just like more on top of her head rather than like kind of like behind the upper part of the skull for Xiangling. But I hope to see more of Xiangling once we get to see more of YaoYao, hopefully in future like story update kind of thing for Genshin. I was just like thinking just now, two other characters that like I think other people are also waiting for, including myself, is probably Kave. Is that how you say his name? Kave or Kave? And then Baizhu. So Baizhu is another Liu Wei character that we've been kind of waiting for too, and a lot of people thought he'd be released whenever YaoYao was going to be released, but now we know that she's probably going to be released when Haitham is. So where's Baizhu? Yeah, I'm excited to see more of them because Baizhu is like one of those characters that I really liked him in the beginning, and then right now it's like I'm still up in the air whether or not it's like a character I would want to summon for. We'll have to see, because sometimes I really like a character and then when I get them I'm a little bit underwhelmed, and then sometimes it's the opposite where I know I like the character but like I say I won't summon them. I'm talking about Wanderer, by the way. I think Wanderer and Sino are the ones where it's like definitely on a whim, because now that I'm thinking about it, I think Sino, who else is there? Wanderer obviously, and then Ito. I'm just wondering if there's anyone else. Ayaka. I think those four were like I did it on a whim. Ayaka I pulled for like after Ayato's banner, and it was very much just with the leftover Primo gems I had from Ayato. I always wanted Ayaka. I always loved her design. I always like her demeanor, her character in general. I really like her. And I also like Yoimiya, but I skipped both her and Yoimiya initially because ever since Kazuha's very first banner, I've saved for Kokomi up until like Kokomi was released, and just occasionally shelled out some primos because I wanted to grab Sayu, and I think there's another person I wanted to grab initially. I don't really remember. I think I tried for Sara. Maybe that's why. Kujo Sara. But yeah, I don't think I got her. I got her more recently compared to like some of the other characters. But yeah, I think in terms of Genshin, that's probably it. Other than I probably will be continuing to draw a lot of Genshin still. I have Genshin on the brain too much, as well as like 17, Ensemble Stars, VTubers, more specifically like Niji Sanji. And then what else? Tears of Himmis as well. It's a little bit less. I still like the game like a whole lot, but I think I just don't talk about the game too much. But in terms of just like life stuff, I still would like to get into trying out clay or some kind of 3D art other than needle felting. Needle felting I still enjoy and it's still therapeutic for me. A little frustrating at times, but it's still fun. And I still like doing things with my hands, but I want to do something that I can produce that's like physical, but it's not as time consuming and taxing on my hands compared to doing needle felting. So it's like looking up different products and stuff, and like I said, I don't want to use like polymer clays or any clay that needs to be baked in an oven, just because I don't want to use the oven if it's gonna have like fumes and stuff, because I know people do that, and some people say it's a little bit dangerous. Some people say you just have to air it out and it's fine. But I'd rather not do that, especially because that's like a communal oven. It's not like my oven. Like my parents use it, my brother uses it, so I don't want to do that to them. So I was looking at air dry clay, and I feel like I found a brand that maybe would work out. So I'll look into doing that maybe after Christmas or in the new year. Maybe we'll see. I would love to make like just little cute sitting figurines of characters I like, maybe starting with Masaki and my OCs maybe, or like Genshin characters, or maybe I'll branch out from there. We'll see. I want to really make just something physical, and having air dry clay be a little bit less expensive, as well as like less much of a commitment for me, and I can kind of practice painting skills as well if I want to color them. So I think that'll be nice. I might have to go see if I can dig up some of my clay tools back when I used to do sculpture in university, because I did a sculpture, like intermediate sculpture class for one thing, and I had a bunch of tools from it. I just don't remember if I gave them away to another student because I was no longer going to take sculpture. I only took it once because I needed credits to fill, so yeah. And I think I mentioned in previous videos that my brain has a hard time thinking about objects in 3D. So even like a lot of my needle felted little Genshin characters and stuff, like if you look at the back of their head, sometimes it looks super flat because all I focused on was the front of the face and what it looked like faced on and not so much about the side view. So yeah. In terms of the drawing, since we're almost at the end, I am adding some leaves to the front. They're not quite bamboo leaves. They kind of just resemble it a little bit. It kind of just looks like random foliage. So that's what I'm adding to just the little sides around YaoYao. I duplicated it and also set it to, I think, multiply and put it into the background as well and kind of faded it so we could layer it a little bit. And before we group everything together, I wanted to add a little bit of those dust particles, which I love to add whenever there's like a stream of sunlight. And I duplicated it, turned one to addition, kind of used Gaussian blur. And then now I am taking everything, putting it into a group, flattening that new group down so we have one image, going into Gaussian blur to blur everything out, and then I'm going to use the eraser to take out any of the blurriness by revealing the untouched version underneath, and then anywhere I didn't erase will be left a little bit blurred so that it will leave it looking like it's not in focus, if that makes sense. It's like one of the things I really like to do if I want to like kind of soften up a drawing a lot, but I don't want to lose detail everywhere. So yeah, I also used the lasso tool to add some extra lighting and little kind of like leaves or petals kind of passing through and catching light. So after that, last step. So I'm adding an overlay layer. I'm adding a bunch of different colors. So I added kind of blues and purples on the bottom right, yellows, orange, reds, pinks, and purples up on the upper left to keep it warmer. And then once I'm done, I will lower the opacity down to a more reasonable level because I don't want it to look super rainbowy. Some people might like this look, but for me it looks too intense. So I'm going to drop it below 50, and then I usually turn it on and off to check whether or not I like it more than the original or less, because, you know, you can always just check it, and then if you don't like it, you can just get rid of it and redo it. But I think that is it for YaoYao. I'm just going to quickly run through the little time lapse, and you guys can see the many times I fixed YaoYao to look a little bit more cuter and a little bit less dead inside. So yeah, here she is. I also shuffled her bangs down. I think this one looks a little bit cuter. So hopefully you guys enjoyed today's video, and I'll talk to you guys next time. Bye!